Hello, welcome to Tabletop CP, and today is video 2 in our 0200 hour series. So 0200 hours is our Night Raids in World War II game that we did the unboxing for last week. So since that video I have assembled, primed, and based the German portion of the box. So in this video what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at those minis. We're going to talk about how I armed them, and we're going to do some comparison with some other German mini manufacturers. And then we're just going to do a quick talk about how I plan on painting these guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here we have the 18 Germans from the starter set, assembled, based, primed. And I did use the back of the box, which has a really good example of these guys in different poses and good ideas on how to build them, and very well painted, of course. But as I got part way through the project, I decided just to kind of go my own way. So this is what I wound up with. I have 2 officers, 5 riflemen, 4 SMGs, 2 of which can be sergeants, 3 dog handler teams, 3 gendarmes, and then the captive. So I have 2 officers. Most games are only going to have 1. So I mentioned I did use the cards to kind of decide how I wanted to build these guys. And there's 1 officer card in the deck. So I built 1 officer to be the in-game, as 1 officer seems to be normal size, or the normal number of officers for a normal size game. So I did build just 1 of those for every day. This guy's going to be the objective officer. You can also have 2 here sergeants. So with the sergeants are going to be veterans and subordinates, so you can have so many sergeants for so many points per game. So I do have enough for 2 sergeants. These 2 guys here, the pointing guy, of course, this guy here. They'll be sergeants, or they can just be regular guys as well. And then you have a bunch of just standard sentries. These are your just regular grunt guys. They can be individuals. They can also be in pairs. So I built a couple of guys with flashlights. So I have one guy with a rifle with a flashlight, one SMG with a flashlight. So what I'll do is I'll have pairs. So I'll have a guy with an SMG and a flashlight with a rifle be a pair. I'll have the guy with the rifle with the flashlight and another guy with an SMG be a pair. Then we can have a couple sergeants, and we can even have a 3rd pair if we wanted, or we could have a couple pairs and a couple of individual guys. So you can't have more individual guys than you have pairs. So if we had 2 pairs, we can only have 2 extra dudes. So that's just the way the game works. So that's the sentries, that's the officers, the NCOs. Then we have field gendarmes. There's 3 field gendarme cards. Actually, there's 3 field gendarme cards. So I built 3. There's also pairs of field gendarmes you can have. So we can have 2, and then we can have 1, or we could have 3 individual guys. However we want to play it. But essentially, I just built whatever the number of cards were is the number I built for those. So there's also 3 dog handler cards. So I built 3 dog handlers. So that's just very simple, very basic way to go about it. But that's the best way that I figured out it would work, is just follow the deck. So build what the deck says you can use, and you can't really go wrong. Plus, I built a couple of extras with the captive and the extra officer. So as far as arming them goes, all of these guys, all the Germans are standard issue. It's only the British guys that get all the extra cool weapons, the extra weapons like sniper rifles and Berets and stuff like that. The Germans, they only get standard issue, so they can have a rifle, an SMG, a pistol, or a shotgun, although there's no shotgun in the box, but it is an option. They also have an improvised close combat weapon, so rifle, butt, bayonet, whatever, that's what they have. So you can see here, this is the number of dice you roll for each weapon. That's how strong the weapon is, and that's the range of it. So SMG's got 3 dice, and it's got spread, so it can hit guys within a certain range of the target, and it's only got a strength of 1. So rifles, 1 dice, but a higher strength. And pistols, so you can see here, they've all got their own little special rules, and their strengths and the number of dice. So knowing that you can only arm them with this. Really, that's all that's in the box is a pistol, an SMG, and rifles. So I gave most of them pistols and rifles. I mean rifles and SMGs, and the rest of them, well, actually I gave all of them rifles and SMGs, except the 2 officers have pistols. I got a couple at SMGs with the gendarme, and 4 SMGs, and then 5 rifles. And then I think rifle for 2 of the dog handlers, and an SMG for 1 of the dog handlers. So that's how the breakdown for arming went with those guys. Alright, so last thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these War Games Atlantic minis that come in the 0200 hours box next to some Warlord Germans. I pulled out the Blitzkrieg Germans because that's how I plan on painting these guys, is in the Blitzkrieg scheme, as most of them are wearing jackboots. Almost all of them are. There's a few that aren't, but most of them are. And they just have a very early war look to them. And I love the look of the early war Germans, and I think it fits really well with that sneaking around, you know, inside of occupied Europe, blowing stuff up a little bit better than, you know, later in the war when Europe was under invasion and all hell was breaking loose everywhere. So I like the idea of the early war Germans. I'm glad that they came looking more like early war Germans than late war Germans, and that is how I plan on painting them. So comparison wise, very similar. I mean, if you just had these guys on the board, you probably wouldn't be able to tell just from, you know, tabletop distance. A couple of these guys seem maybe a little bit taller, but really they're very similar. These 2 officers are almost identical in size. So yeah, comparison wise, size wise, they're very close, and I will paint them up to look like these guys. And once that's done, I'll just be able to add all of these guys into my Blitzkrieg German army, or I could even just bring in guys from my Blitzkrieg German army to work in this game. So very interchangeable. These guys are going to add a lot of variety to my Blitzkrieg Germans, and I might be able to even field some new units that maybe I wasn't able to field in bolt action before, but now I can. So anyway, overall those minis are really nice. They go together very well. A couple of things. It does mention, where's that guy at? This guy here. No, not that guy. The guy with the SMG. This guy. It does mention that the left arm on this is sort of hard to get on, and it was. But it also said in the instruction manual that if you use one of the dog arms, the dog leash arms, and just cut off the hand, it'll fit better. And it actually did. That worked amazing. I just cut off the leash hand, and the arm fit on there with no problem at all. So if you're going to build this guy, I would recommend using that dog leash arm for that. The dog leashes, the dog teams do fit on a 25mm base. I did have to cut some of the leash off because it was just too long. At least I couldn't get it to fit right and get his shoulder to fit right with the leash as long as it was. So I just snipped a tiny bit off the end of the leash, and it was fine. So not a big deal. Other than that, assembly, most of the arms are separate, so you're not trying to join arms onto a weapon, which can be tricky on some things. I only did that for that guy and this guy. That one was pretty easy. The rifle guy was easy. And the rest of them are just single arms doing different things, so they are just super easy to put together. So that's it. That's the German force. Overall, I really like them, and they're going to add some nice variety to my Blitzkrieg Germans. And my Blitzkrieg Germans, again, can be used to add more guys into this game if we so choose. So that's going to do it for video number 2. Let me know what you guys think. And next time we get together for this series, we'll go ahead and take a look at the SAS. So we'll see you then.